Hello, this is Moose here at TRASK. We are going to be doing a turbo install on a twin cam. So basically you're just going to remove the seat, the fuel tank, the complete air cleaner assembly, whether it be stock or aftermarket, and the entire exhaust system. So here he's just removing the tank, unplugging the fuel pump, the vent tube, and get that out of our way. Respect the customer's bike, put the fuel tank in a safe, clean place where it's not going to get bothered. Get the bike up in the air. You remove the right foot peg assembly. Now this particular technician does not remove the right engine mount. I prefer to remove that. It gives me better access to the oil sender unit and our feed line installation for the turbo. Get rid of the air cleaner. Now's a good time to clean out your throttle body and throttle plate, as whatever buildup has occurred over the years. Unplug your stock O2 sensors. There's your stock oil center unit. Clean the threads, that will get reused. Put a little bit of thread sealant on there, Teflon thread sealant. And we have a feed line adapter that you're also going to seal up the threads on that. You're going to screw this in. It is a NPT tapered pipe thread. You're going to clock it so that the receiving hole for the engine oil pressure switch is going to be facing downward and in towards the engine. Don't over tighten it. Don't break it off. You'll know when to stop. There's your oil center unit going in there now. You tighten that up. This is where I remove that right engine mount assembly, just to give me better access to this oil center unit and our adapter kit. I like to hold on to the adapter while I tighten the oil sender so I don't break it off in the engine case. You'll be hating life. Install your feed line. Tighten that up nice and tight. It is a tapered AN fitting. Remove your cam cover. It will dribble some oil out of there, so put some kind of catch pan under it. Our turbo kit comes supplied with a cam cover. Reuse the stock bolts, clean the threads. Install your cam cover. Again, 120 inch-pounds. I like to use red Loctite on those because it's not truly a permanent Loctite as they claim. He's going to install our turbo headpipe support brackets. One goes on the top of the cam cover, one on the front of the cam cover. As you can see, he snugged them down so that they still just move laterally on their mounting studs. Breather bolts and breathers. They are directional, as he's pointing out. The smaller hole goes towards the head. Again, I use red Loctite on these. It is basically a 3/8 bolt. You're going to torque it to 28 foot-pounds. Front rear, again, the small hole goes towards the head. Install your breather lines at this time. You're going to route them down next to the pushrod tube and down inside the oil feed line adapter. And if you want, you could zip tie them, not tight, but snug to the pushrod tube. You're going to unplug your stock map sensor. You're going to reuse that plug to plug into the new map sensor located on the plenum at a later point in the installation. Remove your vacuum cap. Unplug your injectors, front and rear. Don't mix those up. They need to remain front and rear injector. Remove your horn motor mount assembly just to get it out of the way. This particular bike happens to be a earlier twin cam. That bolt right there he's loosening has the potential to being seized depending on what part of the country you're from. Don't break that bolt. Nice and easy. If it's not turning, spray it with some lube. Maybe heat up the manifold a little bit. You do not want to break that fuel rail bolt. He's lubing up the O-rings on the new injectors. Those are 5.4 injectors, designed for a 114 and under. Our stage 1 kit. I'll pop right into the throttle body with the stock fuel rail. Install your bolt back on. Snap the injector terminals onto the injectors. and put your horn motor mount assembly back in place. Red Loctite 3/8 bolt, 28 foot-pounds. Here we have Jet. He is removing the stock ECM. This gets replaced with a ThunderMax ECM. Well, it's not supplied with the kit. It's an optional part of the kit, whether or not you have one or not. It does need to be ran with our turbo kit. It recognizes boost and makes adjustments in relation to the boost that it sees. So the harness from the ThunderMax O2 sensors will plug into the side of the ThunderMax. Comes supplied with screws, and it is orientational, where it will only go in one way. So take a look at the receiving end of the plug and the port that it's going into to make sure you get that plugged in correctly. Tighten down the screws, and you're good to go. There he plugs in the main harness to the ThunderMax. This fits into the same cavity on the bike that the original ECM fit into. He's routing his O2 sensors. They are specific, front and rear, so that you're making the ThunderMax can read the proper cylinder at that time. Remove your stock exhaust gaskets. Put those in place. He's going to grab his new head pipe, install the O2 sensors. There's 2 ports on the rear head pipe. One is for Softail, one is for FL applications. Tighten those down. You'll notice that where that just below the O2 sensor is a connector, so to speak. This is what we call our double slip fit. These pipes are designed to move slightly in relation to the heating and cooling of the engine as it's in use, and also for the primary alignment of this kit. So you're going to get the head pipes onto the head, get all 4 flange nuts started. New flange nuts are supplied with the kit, and I suggest just a little dab of anti-seize on the studs coming out of the head. So get your support bolts in place, top mount and front mount. So there your head pipe is installed. He's got in position. He's going to lock down his support mounts, tighten up his flanges, and then tighten the mounts to the cam cover. All right, so we got that all completed. He's running his rear O2 down inside the frame on the bottom. That'll plug into where he routed the pigtail from the ThunderMax. Tied it up to the inside of the existing wire harness. He's going to mock up his turbo drain hose at this point. So he's got the drain hose in place. He's just got the turbo sitting on the flange of the head pipe. He marked it with a Sharpie or what have you, and he's cutting it to length. Reason being is we do not want this oil drain to be kinked or bent or pinched in any manner. We want a straight shot. It is a gravity drain from the turbo. So we got that all set. Installing the turbo onto the head pipe, supplied with a gasket. The rear inward bolt goes with the head on the bottom and the nut and washer on top. The other 3 bolts go in from the top with the nut on the bottom. You're going to snug these down. You want to retain a little bit of movement here in the turbo for further installation. He's going to put his heat shields on there. You want to orient the screw out of heat shields so you have access to them, and they're invisible as you can make them behind the back side of the pipe. So we've got his heat shields installed. Remove the bolts from the discharge side of the turbo. He's routing his wastegate hose. This is vacuum hose that's going to go down to the blow-off valve. Again, he's going to install this discharge pipe with the socket head fasteners loose. There's 5 fasteners. Comes with a new gasket. Those 2 ports at the rear is for the wastegate. That determines what kind of boost you are running. We run our turbo kits at 8 pounds of boost on 91 octane pump gas. The reason you left everything loose as far as the turbo and the discharge pipe is to gain proper alignment between the 2 ports for the wastegate. They come with V-band clamps. You want to get it clamped onto the head pipe and then clamp it onto the discharge pipe. Secure those tight first, and then proceed to torquing down the rest of the turbo system. So once he's got the wastegate lined up, he's going to torque that turbo assembly down to the head pipe, and then tighten the discharge pipe to the discharge side of the turbo. 24 foot-pounds is a proper torque. When you get a feel for doing this stuff, you pretty much just know how tight to make it. He's running his boost line. It's a nylon boost line for the boost gauge that's up on the handlebar. Some people have custom handlebars. We have an optional boost gauge that mounts on the rear side of the plenum. I'll get into that also. Here's your blow-off valve. That round cylindrical thing is the blow-off valve. Goes to the vacuum port on the throttle body. The one directly above it on the square block is a pressure boost signal that's going to go to your wastegate. That's your nylon line for the boost gauge. It just goes into a push connector on the back side of the plenum. The front hex head bolt, the plenum's going to slide into that. You'll align it to 3 bolts with the throttle body. Put that bolt in, that 3/8 bolt in loose at this point. The 3 bolts that's going to fasten the plenum to the throttle body and align everything. And at this point now, you should have a gap between the head pipe and the bottom of the plenum. That's the reason why we wanted to get that head pipe down as far as we could, close to the cam cover, to make sure that we have clearance there. Every turbo installation should have clean, fresh oil, and the oil change done with a new filter, because we want clean, fresh oil going through the turbo. That is the one and only reason for any kind of turbo failure, is debris or foreign matter going through the turbo. So once you achieve clean, fresh oil coming out of that feed line, go ahead and connect that up. Again, it's at number 3 AN fitting. You want to make sure that is tight. That being said, he's going to plug his computer into the ThunderMax. We have a large library of a variety of maps based on displacement, year, model, cam choice, turbo kit. You know, we have stage 1 and stage 2 turbo kits depending on the displacement of your engine. So whatever you decide to put it on, we've got a map, a tune file for it. We're going to get the intercooler set up. What he's doing here, he's going to set it up on there and just check his alignment of the compressor housing, which was off. You can see it's on a slight angle there. There's 4 fasteners on a stage 1 turbo kit. Loosen those up a little bit, and that compressor housing will rotate to allow you to line it up with the inlet of the intercooler. At that same time, he's going to measure his boots that go from the turbo to the intercooler and the intercooler to the plenum. We found using a big socket and run a razor blade around the socket gives you a nice clean cut and is appealing. Where that hose fits up to the bottom of the intercooler, that flange is relatively short. It has 3 serrations in it, so you got to make sure that that hose is all the way up against the bottom of that intercooler. And then when you tighten the clamp is all the way up against the top of the intercooler to get a good bite on that inlet flange. Lock tight the bolts that go through the rocker box. Put your clamps on the hoses. Put it back in place because you know it's going to fit perfect. You lock it down to the rocker box. 5/16 bolt, 24 foot-pounds. Let him get that done, and he's going to tighten up his clamps for the inlet and exit boot from the intercooler. This is our velocity stack. It's a very unique design. It goes in, and on the back side of it, there's an arrow pointing up. You want to push it into place and rotate it 1/8 of an inch clockwise, and allowing the magnets to attach to each other. There's also a retaining flange on the back side that will not permit it to get pushed out of the plenum. So take a good look at that. It's pretty interesting. We're getting ready to seal this thing up. That's our window, so everybody likes to see stuff. It's a cool ass window that you can see inside the throttle body. That is an 832 screw, 20 inch-pounds on that. Pretty light torque. Blue Loctite on that. Installing that plenum window, you want to make sure the inside of it is clean before you install it, because you can always clean the outside, but you have to take it all apart to clean the inside. Okay, he's putting his floorboard back on, supplied with floorboard spacers to keep your leg away from that turbo. The larger spacers go on the right side, the shorter spacers go on the left side. I like to use red Loctite on these. 3/8 bolt, 28 foot-pounds. Install your air cleaner. That's a rain sock that we supply also. It goes over the air filter. We put them on at the time of installation. Realistically, they're only needed if you get caught in the rain. We're going to go over to the primary side of the bike. This is a twin cam, so you need to remove the entire primary cover, drain the oil to gain access to the clutch spring. We put a heavier spring in this that is supplied with the kit to basically accept the additional power that this thing's going to make. So the 6 fasteners on this clutch spring retainer. You want to loosen at an even rate so you don't overload any of the individual studs. Just cleaning off the excess oil. He also loosened the adjuster screw, install the spring, and you're going to go through a factory clutch cable adjustment when he's all done here, which starts with the cable completely loose. Screw down the adjuster screw till you make initial contact with the push rod. I like to back it off 1/4 to 3/8 of a turn, jam down that lock nut, and then go ahead and adjust your cable to the final amount of free play at the lever, which is referred to as a nickel's worth, or the thickness of a nickel. Install your drain plug with a new O-ring. Install fresh oil in your primary. Install your left side foot peg. Also comes with spacers. They're not quite as thick as the right side. Gap your spark plugs at 35 thousandths. These plugs are supplied. They are a little bit colder than a stock plug. We use a NGK DCPR9E in the twin cams. Remove your stock brake master cylinder perch. Install your TRASK replacement perch with the boost gauge incorporated into it. You're going to plug that in. He's dropping the bike, and put the tank on, button that up, plug it in, and get this baby fired up. I want to point out this is a twin cam specific installation. It's very similar, but there's a few things that are certainly different on an M8. Plug in your vent hose, your overflow, your fuel pump plug, fuel pump and fuel level gauge. There she is. She's running. Now you will see a little bit of smoke coming off the turbo assembly upon initial fire up. It's just the coating getting seated into the hot pipe as it warms up. You can get yours at TRASKperformance.com, and there's also a tornado kit which is available through Drag Specialties or your Drag Specialties dealer.